I'm joined right now by State Senator Greg Ball. Senator, thank you very much. I know you've had a very busy day here. Appreciate a few minutes.
Hey, pleasure to be here. How are you doing?
I'm good, Greg. We've heard a couple different things, that there might actually be a deal in principle, that a 30-second vote is in place. One more Republican. First of all, are you that Republican, and is there a deal?
I'll say this. I am not that Republican. I have fought very hard for religious protections. I've asked for some pretty comprehensive religious protections. I think that the religious protections that we have seen carved out in recent days are not quite as comprehensive or what I've asked for. I can tell you that, I've said, look, this is a democracy. Let's bring this for an up or down vote. And I believe that when it comes to the floor, it will certainly come to the floor, in my opinion. And I also think that it will pass. Look, I wasn't sent to this Capitol to focus on social issues either from the left or the right. I mean, I'm thrilled today because we're probably going to have a property tax cap. It's looking really good, that I've been fighting for about 5 years. But it does look like we'll have an up or down vote on that marriage equality bill.
Okay, and that's important. I want to, again, for our viewers, be clear. You believe that we will have an up or down vote, and your instinct is there'll be a majority here, and same-sex marriage will be the law of the land, or law of New York.
I'll say this. I mean, even the Conservative Party chairman, who in recent days reversed his position, had a little bit of egg on his face. Even the Conservative Party chairman several months back said, look, let's put this out to a vote. And now he's recently come out and said, no, bottle it up. I mean, we live in New York State, and what conservatives and Republicans have to realize is that this isn't Texas, it is New York State, and there's probably very little doubt that one day there will be marriage equality in New York State. And that's why I fought so hard to make sure in these interim weeks that we shifted the debate towards those religious protections. There are those on the extreme left who view this as a civil rights issue purely, but don't pay respect to those who are on the right, and there are those on the right who do not pay respect to those on the left and who view it as an affront to their strongly held religious beliefs. And over the past few weeks, I got to tell you, it's been pretty horrific in some instances to watch the extremes, the politics, the polarization, the amount of hate that has really taken over this entire debate. Not in my conference, I'll tell you that. I think that the Republicans who come out and vote yes, some of them are going to be destroying their political careers, no doubt. And I have heard very little politics. It's really been on substance, and it's been on conscience. And that's from a guy who's talked about Albany being dysfunctional, but it's been refreshing to watch the debate amongst the colleagues, but not refreshing at all to watch the debate amongst the exact opposites on the poll issue.
You personally, I know you said, and you reached out to your constituents and said, I'm conflicted on this issue. Or tell me via Twitter or Facebook what I ought to do. I'm going to wave a magic wand, Greg, and I know it's not this simple, but all the religious concerns that you have, both for the churches themselves, the institutions that could lose funding, assume for this conversation, hypothetically, that all those concerns are answered and there is no ramifications to religious institutions who will not perform these ceremonies. In that particular circumstance, how will you vote?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I am privy at least to initial information out on this legislation, and I can tell you that it's not even close. I mean, there are three major categories. One is religious institutions, and even in the governor's initial language, and if I'm drilling too much down in the details, you can cut me off, but I think people should really understand some of the religious institutions. Even in the governor's bill, there were some pretty good protections, pretty comprehensive protections. But it was specific for religious corporations and not the individuals who actually complete the ceremonies. Then for religious organizations, benevolent associations, everybody used the Knights of the Columbus as an example. Many of them are incorporated under the not-for-profit law. And they were not protected because they were only protected under religious finance law. I may not have the exact sect of law right, but the not-for-profit law wasn't protected. So there was a huge grouping of religious organizations that wouldn't have been protected. And then the toughest needle to thread were individuals with religious objections. And that's where you get into a back and forth of institutionalizing within the law discrimination. Very tough area to tread. But on those first two categories, as I understand it, even to today, while the religious institutions have been protected, we haven't seen some of the more comprehensive protections. So that being the case, I will probably be voting no. But I can say that we have moved the discussion at least a little bit, in my opinion, in the right direction, and I believe enough where you're going to see some moderate Republicans voting yes.
You mentioned political consequences. I saw you personally targeted that if you did vote yes, not only would you be looking at a primary challenge coming from more of the Tea Party sect within your district, but they would have claimed it was an out-and-out abandonment of what you had promised. How much political pressure you personally has been exerted on you to vote one way or the other?
You know, I've never taken very well to threats but the threats have come so often. If the threats were from one side, I'd almost be pushed to do the exact opposite of what they want. I mean, you're looking at a guy who I didn't get the conservative endorsement a year and a half ago with bona fide conservative credentials. I took on Chairman Long and the local conservative chair people, and I beat them in a write-in 3-1. And when they come out with that type of a track record where they endorse basically, not to get political, but Marxist-like candidates throughout the state, nothing to do with principle, and then they come out and they threaten you with an ultimatum like that, it lowers the conversation. At the end of the day, I believe that if you look at the intensity that we've seen in this debate, if we could take this intensity and focus it on tax policy and jobs and education, we'd have a hell of a state. We would have a hell of a state. I have never seen this Capitol disengage on an issue, important no doubt to many people, but that affects so few people when we have folks who are part of a hemorrhaging economy and really crippled by the worst economy since the Great Depression. So the threats on both sides, I've seen them both. I mean, I had a Senator on Your Corner event this past weekend. Folks on the left would come up and say, if you vote against me, I'm never going to vote for you. And folks on the right would come up and say, if you vote for this, I'm never going to support you again. In fact, they're upset because I've even opened up the discussion to communicate with my constituents. Meanwhile, Archbishop Dolan has thanked me for my efforts on religious protections, but there are those in my base, fundamentals, who are absolutely upset that I would even consider engaging my constituency in a conversation. That's how polarizing this subject is, and it's unfortunate.
Do we get a vote tonight, you think?
I really do. I mean, if you consider any time past midnight a vote, I think at the end of the day we get the property tax cap. Hopefully we'll have real unfunded mandate relief. We'll pass the rental portion of it, which is extremely important to the Assembly, and I believe that we'll have an up or down vote on marriage equality. And I honestly think that it'll pass.
All right, load up on that coffee, Senator. I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you.